Once upon a time, in the beautiful village of Umunze, there lived a young lady named Adaugo. She was as beautiful as the morning sun, with skin color of rich earth, and eyes that healed the depths of the night sky. Adaugo was very beautiful, to the point heads turn whenever she walked past. Both male and female talks about Adaugo's beauty. Some call her the beauty goddess, but something was strange and different about Adaugo. She was strong, fearless and untouchable, unlike the other maidens in the village that are easily approachable by men. Adaugo was different. No man dares come close to her, not even an inch, without facing her wrath. Adaugo beats up any man who dares come close to her. Many suitors had come from far and wide, enchanted by her beauty, but they left with bruises and broken pride, because Adaugo would beat them up like a little child, not minding who they are, their status, small or great. The people of Umunze whispered about her, wondering why a woman so young and graceful fought men, as if she was a warrior. One evening, Obinna, a well-known wrestler in the village, approached Adaugo, boasting that no woman could overpower him. Adaugo, you are beautiful, but you need a strong man like me by your side to tame your wide heart, he said with a smirk. Adaugo smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Obinna, I will give you one chance to walk away peacefully, she said with an angry tone. The young men around laughed and said, a woman warning Obinna, the great wrestler. This must be a joke. Obinna reached out to touch Adaugo's arm, and before he could blink, she twisted his hand behind his back and threw him to the ground. The men around gasped as Obinna groaned in pain. No one had ever defeated him so easily. Obinna stood up in shame and walked back home quietly, looking defeated. Obinna was so ashamed that he no longer walked around the village with pride. Another time, a young man named Inamdi, a hunter, known for his strength, tried to embrace Adaugo against her will. He received the beating of his life. Adaugo reacted swiftly with a well-aimed kick to his chest that made him collapse on the floor. The villagers laughed at his disgrace, and from that day, men learned to keep their distance. One beautiful morning, Adaugo went to the village stream to fetch water. The path to the stream was stony and slippery from the previous night's rain. As she walked, carrying her pot of water on her head, she hit her foot against a stone. She slipped and fell to the ground. Her water pot broke and her leg was injured. Adaugo sat on the floor in pain. A young farmer named Chibuzo saw her fall and ran to help her. Adaugo, let me help you up, he said bending down to offer her his hand. Before he could touch her, she sprang up despite her pain and delivered a very hot slap on his cheek that echoed through the trees. "Don't you dare touch me," she shouted, her eyes burning with fury. Chibuzo hid his cheek, shocked and confused. "Adaugo, I was only trying to help," he stammered. "Stay away from me," she shouted angrily, before limping away, leaving him standing there, looking confused. The story of Adaugo's rage spread like wildfire. She beat up a farmer who was only trying to help, the villagers whispered. But no one dared confront Adaugo because they knew what she was capable of, and her fearsome reputation grew even stronger. That day, despite her fierce reputation, Adaugo's beauty has caught the attention of the village prince, Prince Emeka, the handsome son of the king, who was intrigued by her strength and confidence. He thought within himself that since he was a prince, that Adaugo will not dare lay a finger on him. But unfortunately, he was wrong. One sunny afternoon, Adaugo was walking through the market when Prince Emeka stopped her and said, "Wanyoma, good afternoon. How are you doing?" Adaugo did not respond. She just stared at him. Prince Emeka continued, "I have heard a lot about you, so I decided to meet you by myself. Is everything okay?" Adaugo did not respond. She just turned and walked away. Prince Emeka followed her, calling, "Wait, wait!" But Adaugo did not stop walking. Then Prince Emeka rushed and held her hands. But that was the mistake he made. In the blink of an eye, Adaugo twisted his arm and swept his legs from under him, sending him to the ground. Prince Emeka landed on the ground like a bag of fufu, screaming in pain. Adaugo did not flinch. She just walked away. The entire market gasped. They were shocked. Two men carried the prince on their shoulder and took him to the palace. The news of the prince spread like wildfire. The entire village was in shock. Adaugo beat up the prince? Ha! Abomination! No one have ever dared to lay a hand on the prince, the villagers murmured. Everyone wondered what will happen next. When the prince got to the palace, bruised and battered, the king was furious. "Who dared do this to my son?" he shouted angrily. The servants trembled. When the king learned that it was Adaugo, he sent for her immediately. Word spread quickly through the village. Everyone rushed to the palace, eager to see what will happen. "How will Adaugo answer the king?" they whispered. The palace courtyard was filled with villagers, all waiting for the fierce girl to arrive. When Adaugo finally arrived, she walked into the courtyard with her head held high. The people watched her, wondering if she would be scared, but Adaugo wasn't afraid. She stood tall before the king, looking bold. The king, sitting on his throne, looked at Adaugo with firing eyes. "Why do you beat up my son?" he shouted angrily. Adaugo did not respond. She stood looking, with her eyes filled with anger and pain. "Speak, girl," the king shouted again. But still Adaugo did not respond. She kept calm. The villagers were surprised at her behavior, but they kept calm, waiting eagerly for Adaugo's response. But she said nothing. The king was furious, then shouted angrily again. His voice sounded like thunder. "Why do you hurt my son? Speak now or face the consequences." Adaugo's heart melted. Her face went pale. And for the first time, the villagers saw something different about her. Tears filled her eyes as she began to speak. "I did not choose to be this way," she said softly. The villagers grew silent as she began to tell her story. Adaugo's eyes filled with tears as she told her story that she has kept for so long. "My father was a wicked man. He was heartless. He beat my mother like a beast. He beat her every single day. He beats her at every slightest mistake. I grew up watching my mother cry, watching her bleed, watching her beg for mercy that never came. So one day, my mother was pregnant. There was a small argument, something very small, but my father beat her mercilessly to the point she collapsed. She lost the baby and later on she died. The villagers were shocked and surprised. At this point, Adaugo's tears flowed freely down her cheek as she continued. "I was just a child. I couldn't do anything to save her. And after some years, my father died, and I moved in with my uncles. I thought that everything would be fine now, not knowing the worst was yet to come. My uncles were nothing different from my father. They were even worse than him. Every single day, they will bring different strange ladies to their home and do with them however they please. And when their wives try to talk, they will punch on them like a lion devouring a prey. And I watched all this happen before my eyes. And one night, I was sleeping when I felt someone close to me. When I woke up, I was shocked to see my uncle's son. He wanted to force himself on me, but I escaped. So from that day, I made a decision. I could not save my mother. I could not save my uncle's wives, but I will save myself. So I decided that I will not let any man come close to me an inch, let alone to hurt me." When Adaugo was done telling her story, the villagers gasped. They were shocked. They were surprised. They have always seen her as a troublemaker and a fighter, but now they knew better. Adaugo wasn't fighting men for no reason. She was protecting herself. The men in the village, especially the ones she had beaten up, lowered their heads in shame. They realized that Adaugo's strength has come from a place of pain. Some of the men had their own experience of maltreating women. So now they saw how their actions can cause so much pain. Some of the women who have silently carried their own struggle look at Adaugo with respect. The women began to see her as a symbol of strength, someone who refused to be controlled or beaten down. Even the prince, who has once thought he could tame her, understood the mistake he has made. So with a heavy heart, he apologized to her, promising never to hurt her again and to respect the strength she carries. The king, who listened silently to Adaugo's story, spoke up, his voice heavy with regret. Adaugo, you have suffered greatly, and we have failed you. No one should have to live in fear. Then he turned to the villagers. Let this be a lesson to all men. Women are not to be beaten, abused, or maltreated. Any man in Umunze who dares to harm a woman in this village will face the consequences. The crowd cheered, and for the first time, Adaugo felt a weight lift off her heart. She was no longer alone. Adaugo, with time, began to open her heart to love. She agreed to marry the prince, not because she has been tamed, but because he has shown that he could respect and value her. It wasn't about control, it was about strength meeting strength, respect meeting respect. The village celebrated the union of Adaugo and Prince Emeka. It wasn't just a marriage of two people, but a story of healing and courage. Adaugo, whose journey from pain and fear to strength and respect. Hi, beautiful people of African Tales by Ify Best. Hope you enjoy the story. Please let me know in the comment section what you think about the story. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section and where you are watching this story from. Please like and share the story to your loved ones. Support your girl Ify Best by subscribing to my channel if you have not done so. And watch the ads. God bless you until I bring another story your way. Bye.